Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode we're reviewing AEW Collision from July 22nd, 2023. If you haven't seen any of my videos before, I rate everything on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Let's jump right into it. We start the show with Ricky Starks in the ring talking about him winning the Owen Hart Memorial Tournament, which brings out CM Punk. Punk basically says, I'm not mad at you. I would have done the same thing. I'm not going to pretend like I haven't cheated in my past. He also seems to be going a tinge on the heel side here, even though, as we see what they're aligning this with, seems to be they're making Ricky the heel. So it's a little bit odd how it's being done here, and I guess it might be just CM Punk playing to the crowd more than not. As they're arguing, we see Christian and Luchasaurus coming out. Christian talking about himself being a TNT champion. This was after Ricky Starks had made some talk about a bag that he had, which was, I believe, a Gucci bag or Louis Vuitton bag. Some designer bag that he said he bought with his winnings from the tournament, and it's empty just like CM Punk's bag, which Punk is calling himself the real world champion. That's what triggers Christian and Luchasaurus to come out, because Christian is doing a thing where him and Luchasaurus are both the TNT champion. Interesting here, I love Christian as a heel. I like how he incorporated only the real champion should carry a championship. When he's carrying a championship he didn't win, I thought that was pretty cool. That leads us right into Darby Allin, who we recently seen win a number one contender for the TNT championship, coming out and basically saying CM Punk's my friend. I have an idea, let's make a tag match, me and CM Punk versus Ricky Starks and the TNT champion. Then there's a little bit of confusion whether that's going to be Luchasaurus or Christian. The commentary, and I believe Shivani even flubbed it a bit. It ultimately sets up our main event of the show, which is going to be Ricky Starks and Christian going up against CM Punk and Darby Allin. Nice opening segment. I like how it set the table. I like how, even though Stark seems to be aligning on the heel side, he's getting a lot of great reaction. He almost feels like and I know a lot of people have said this, he's kind of like a throwback to The Rock. And a lot of people say that he reminds them of The Rock. And just a sidebar, because there's been a lot of discourse about LA Knight, yeah, imitating The Rock and Stone Cold. People like Kevin Nash have weighed in, others have weighed in. My thing is this: if you're a guitar player, you take inspiration from Eddie Van Halen. You take inspiration from Randy Rhoads. You take inspiration from Dimebag Darrell, whoever your favorite guitarist was. If you're an actor, you take inspiration from a Morgan Freeman, an Anthony Hopkins, a Ben Affleck. People that have been very successful at what they've done. So as a wrestler, why would you not take inspiration from some of the more successful wrestlers, whether it be Ric Flair, The Rock, Hulk Hogan? These are all people that made it to the top and were considered some of the greatest of all time. So that discourse about LA Knight, I know. And even in comparison to Ricky Starks, to me seems a little bit weird. I mean, you hear it all the time. Patrick Mahomes will say stuff like he watched Peyton Manning. Or Mike Tyson says he studied Muhammad Ali. You study the greats so you can learn from them and kind of incorporate some of what worked. Just mentioning that right here. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. We get to see a nice little segment with Andrade trying to come into the arena and being kicked out by security because of what's been going on with him in the House of Black. House of Black does have a match later on. Again, it's these little pieces of continuity that are making this show, in my opinion, the best show wrestling-wise in television. Little stuff like this. I did think it was kind of weird. If you go back and watch this, two of the security guards were Rhett Titus and LSG, which have been on Ring of Honor television, have been on Ring of Honor since Tony Khan has purchased Ring of Honor. So I thought that was a little bit odd, but hey, if Rhett Titus and LSG could get some jobs here and make a paycheck, I'm all for it. That leads us right into our first match of the evening. We get Action Andretti and Darius Martin going up against the Bullet Club Gold, being represented by Jay White and Juice Robinson, who have the Guns with him. Colton and Austin. I enjoyed this match. It kind of felt like no matter what was going to happen here, it was going to be a little bit of a letdown coming off of what we seen the previous week, which was one of the greatest tag team matches in history, one of the great matches of the year, probably the best tag team match that I've seen at least since the Briscoes FTR trilogy. So there was going to be a little bit of a letdown here. Because as good as Andretti and Darius Martin are, they're not going to be able to have a match like FTR did with Jay and Juice. It's a good match. I really enjoyed it. I did like how they worked against each other, the more high-flying, fast-action team versus a more wrestling-based, mat-based team. I really love Bullet Club Gold, and I wasn't going into it thinking I would like it because, Jay White was kicked out of Bullet Club. It kind of felt like an NWO 2000 thing. But to me, Bullet Club Gold is more compelling right now than Bullet Club Prime. And Bullet Club Prime is doing, and I know they don't call it that, that's just what I call it. They're doing some really cool stuff with new recruits. David Finley's taking it in a new direction. I enjoyed this match. Again, like I said, I think it was going to be a letdown either way. Juice Robinson and Jay White pick up the win here. I'm giving this a 4. It was still a good match. Again, hard to live up to what they did last week, though. After the match, we see all 4 members, Jay White, Juice Robinson, and the Guns, basically continue a beatdown on Andretti and Martin. And this was another thing I liked. No one came out to make the save. And it was different because as a wrestling fan, you're looking for that. You're looking down the aisle. You're looking at the ring, at the crowd to see someone come out and help. But no one did here. It was very interesting, very telling. It helped to build this faction up more. I enjoyed this. Like I said, I'm giving the whole thing a 4. That's followed up by Miro versus Nick Comoroto. Nick Comoroto would be served well to be taken off of TV for 6 months and be brought back because I think he's got something. He's definitely got a look. And I think he has some charisma. I do like the fact that he attacked Miro from behind to start the match, and in the very early parts of the match, and I say early because it's a very short match, Comoroto is able to get some offense in, all before Miro turns it around, basically hits a couple moves, puts on the game over camel clutch, which now that the Iron Sheik has passed away and he's the guy most known for it, I know Gory Guerrero invented it. Maybe we could change that name. I mean, he did call it the Accolade and then change that to the Game Over. So maybe throw a little bit of a nod to the Sheik in there. In my opinion, I think that might be cool. Obviously, Miro picks up the win here. It's a glorified squash match, but Miro's so damn compelling that I can't help but watch what's going on and be glued to what he's doing. This guy needs a championship on him ASAP. Whether that's the TNT title, whether that's the International Championship, whether they give him the World Championship. You got to put some gold on this guy because you can't honestly explain why there isn't gold around his waist. I thought this was fun. Again, even though it's a squash match, it was highly entertaining, and that's basically what I base my ratings on, how entertained I am. I'm giving this one a 4. I thought it was really good. Next up, we get a Trios Championship match. We have the House of Black, Brody King, Malachi Black, and Buddy Matthews defending against the Acclaimed, Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, and Billy Gunn. And I liked this. I thought this was a good match. It did feel a little bit down. It felt a little bit not like there was a gravity there that we would find out after the match. There was obvious during the match. It felt like this was just another match that was put on the card. I didn't really feel at any point that the House of Black was in danger where we should have. Juxtapose that against FTR and Jay White and Juice Robinson last week. There were plenty of times where I was questioning, are they going to give this to Jay and Juice? Here, I had no question about the Acclaimed winning this, and it was a little bit of a dud in my opinion. It wasn't a bad match, don't get me wrong here. I thought it was a good match. House of Black does pick up the win. For the match, I'm giving it a 3. Afterwards, we see Malachi Black say some things into the ear of Billy Gunn, and then after that we see Billy Gunn take off his boots and put him in the middle of the ring, which traditionally is a sign that a wrestler is retiring, that he's hanging up his boots, he's putting his boots up. The question I have, and I haven't seen either way, is this a legit retirement? Did he maybe just want to low-key go out without no fanfare, or is this part of an angle? Was what Malachi Black said to him something that twists him and gets him away from the Acclaimed? Or was that just simply a wrestler like Malachi Black paying respects to Billy Gunn before leaving the ring because Billy Gunn is an absolute legend? I know that both of the Gunn brothers, Austin and Colton, tweeted something semi in kayfabe that made it seem like it was a real retirement. I don't know, because that was semi in kayfabe, I don't know if that's still part of this angle or if this is an angle or a real retirement. I would hope and I would think that someone of the stature of Billy Gunn was going to retire, that they would do some kind of an angle that Tony Khan would want to advertise that. And that's something I'll get into at the end here about this show altogether. If it is a real retirement, Billy Gunn had an amazing career. I just wish that it may have happened on a pay-per-view or something that they could have built to make it more meaningful for a guy that's an absolute legend. Now after that, we get an in-ring interview with two guys that are legends in the making or in the middle of their legendary career. Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, FTR. FTR is talking about their upcoming match on Dynamite against Adam Cole and MJF. Talking about the match last week against Jay White and Juice Robinson. Mentioning how Cole and MJF aren't taking tag team wrestling seriously, and they bring up the point that they had a dance break in the middle of their match last week, which is a great point. I don't know that you necessarily want your wrestlers to point out bad parts of matches. Even though I found that entertaining, you don't want them to say stuff like that. It's almost like the time in NXT where Adam Cole said, "They make me interesting by just letting me wrestle," to Karrion Kross, ultimately making Karrion Kross look like a chump. Thought that was a good promo. These guys are good talkers, so it made a good segment here. Set up the match for Wednesday, which I think is going to be good. Very cool here. After that, we get a match with Taya Valkyrie going up against Sky Blue. It's mentioned that Taya Valkyrie is someone that Sky Blue looked up to, which absolutely makes sense with how young Sky Blue is and how long Taya Valkyrie has been in wrestling. Her looking up to someone like Taya Valkyrie absolutely makes sense. Taya Valkyrie is an outstanding wrestler. This is a good match. Again, I think it fell a little bit short. I think it wasn't as great as I'd like it to be. I do enjoy the fact that they're putting Sky Blue in matches with people like Taya Valkyrie that can help elevate her, because I think Sky Blue is someone that you can help to build that division around for the future, being as she's one of the younger women on the roster. Ultimately, Taya Valkyrie does pick up the win here. I'm giving the match a 3. I thought it was good. Not great, but still a good match. Afterwards, we have Taya Valkyrie in what seems to be a little bit of a snarky heel promo, calling out Britt Baker for a match. I believe she said on Wednesday as well, which that'll be fun. That'll be a good match, Britt Baker and Taya Valkyrie. For this, I'm giving it a 3. Like I said, I thought it was good. Not great. Now we get to the main event of our show. Christian Cage and Ricky Starks going up against CM Punk and Darby Allin. And much like I've said on all of these reviews, there's definitely a pattern of who's on the show. The Bullet Club Gold, the House of Black, Andrade El Idolo, Ricky Starks, Miro, FTR. They've all been highlighted on basically every show, which is definitely giving Collision its identity, who their stars are, who you expect to see every week. If you're a fan of CM Punk, tune into Collision. If you're a fan of Ricky Starks, tune into Collision, because you're going to see them. If you're a fan of Miro, again, tune into Collision, you'll see him there. And I like that aspect of the show, and the fact that you could cycle people in and out like Christian, Luchasaurus, that kind of go between the two shows so there's not a hard brand split, helping to keep everything fresh here. I thought this was a really good match for two teams that are not necessarily teams you're used to seeing together. I think both teams worked really well. Christian Cage and Ricky Starks worked a lot better together than I thought they were going to. And I mean, we're talking about Christian, one of the masters of tag team wrestling. I didn't expect much of them because we haven't seen them before, whereas Punk and Darby Allin, we've at least seen interactions with them before. They've wrestled, they've teamed up before. I thought this was a really good match to close up the show. Ultimately, Christian and Ricky Starks pick up the win here. Ricky Starks again using the ropes to his advantage, so we're seeing a pattern where obviously Ricky, if he's not going to be a full-blown heel, even though in this he's aligning with a heel, he's going to be a shade of gray character where if the fans cheer him, he's still going to cheat. I enjoyed this. I thought it was a good match. I'm giving it a 4. Ultimately, I think this is probably, out of the collisions they've done before, this is my least favorite one, but I still enjoyed it. I still got a lot of entertainment out of this. It still was the best wrestling show of the week. A couple of things that I'll say I criticize with this, where in other weeks they've built up important things like the first one, CM Punk is going to talk, the Owen Hart Tournament Finals, the FTR Bullet Club Gold match. They built up things for you to come back to it. And next week, we're going to see things that they built up, like Buddy Matthews versus Andrade El Idolo in a ladder match, which is going to be amazing. I already know ahead of time that's going to be a great match. I kind of felt like this was just kind of one of those ebb and flows, like you had to have a little bit of a down flip coming off of what we had last week. I did, however, enjoy the show. I thought it was good. I'd like to see more of a build up to stuff. I like the route they're going. It is very clear there is a focus and a way they're doing the show that is different than what they do on Collision, Dynamite. And different doesn't have to be bad. You can like both things. It's like saying, I like chocolate ice cream, I like vanilla ice cream. You can enjoy both, and they're both different. You could prefer the chocolate over the vanilla, or vice versa, but still get joy out of watching both of the things. I enjoyed the show. I thought it was good. Overall, I'm going to give it a 3. Like I said, it did feel like it was a little bit less important. We did get some storyline movement here, where some people like FTR are going to go next after the Bullet Club Gold thing seemed to be ended, where they're going with the Ricky Starks character, some developments in the TNT Championship match or division itself. I did enjoy this. Again, I gotta give it 3. It was just good. I don't think it was great. Now, I did want to bring it up before I ended this video. I brought this reviews for this because previously I did reviews on New Japan Strong, which they changed around and I stopped reviewing, because I'd like to keep at least one weekly show in my repertoire, not have everything be so much based on stuff that happened in the past. Like, obviously the Memphis shows are based on Memphis. The top 10s could go anywhere. The It Came From the Network is all historical stuff that's already happened in the past. The reason I'm saying all this is I notice these videos aren't doing as great. Now, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with videos being more popular or less popular, but I want to ask you guys, do you want me to continue to do this? Do you want me to continue to review Collision? If not, I can look for something else to fill this time, something that you would enjoy. I mean, ultimately, I'm going to watch it anyway. Let me know if you'd like to see me continue on with this. If the interest is just not there, there's no point in me taking the time to shoot the videos, edit the videos, release the videos, promote them on my social media. But if there is interest, there is time for me to do that. Let me know down here in the comments. If you've made it all the way to the end, smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. And if you'd like to be a channel member, all you'd have to do is hit that little button that says join. Becoming a channel member would definitely help out. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been my AEW Collision Review.